White is better. Draw. Black is winning. White is winning. +1, +3, -4, -6, -0.30. What does that all even mean? Chess evaluation. Do you wonder how you evaluate a chess position? Actually, you don't, because you don't evaluate anything. You just play with the first move that comes to your mind. Normally, you should have a plan. But how can you understand what is your plan if you don't know how to evaluate a chess position? You know they say bad plan is better than no plan? They're lying. And to find a good plan, you need to start with a chess evaluation. You've heard all those things as advantage this side, advantage that side, but let's dive in what exactly that means. I'm Women's Grandmaster Imbalances, and this is Russian Chess School. In this video, I'm gonna teach you how to evaluate any chess position. Evaluation is one of the hardest skills in chess, like full stop. You need to choose the right strategy of the game. For that, you evaluate the position correctly. If you don't know who's better, you can pick the right plan. What's the point of calculating 10 moves ahead, even though, let's say, you don't know how to do that, but just imagine that you can. What's the point? If you don't know how to evaluate the final position on the board, you don't know if that line is good or bad for you. Well, in your case, it would be like 1 move ahead, if I am lucky. Key question is who has advantage, who is better, and why. Only after answering this question, you can find the right plan. There are 2 main types of advantage: material and positional. For material advantage, this is super simple, and frankly, this is gonna be most of your games. You're just gonna take a look at the material. Every piece on the board has a number, including pawns. So pawns are worth 1 point. Knight 3, bishop 3, rook 5, queen 9, and king everything. Oh, you're my world, you're my heart, my soul. Although the queen is the one who's ruling the world. In order to understand who has the material advantage, you just count. If you have more points than your opponent, you have the advantage. So when your opponent offers a draw, you disagree. Editor, put here a moment where kids are offering me a draw and I disagree. You counted all the material and now you see that it is even. What do you do next? You take a look at the type number 2, which is positional advantage. It consists of several factors. Number 1, king safety. Number 2, piece development. Number 3, piece activity. Number 4, pawn structure. Number 5, open files. Whose rook is on the open file? Number 6, weak squares. Number 7, imbalances. Evaluation is a combination of all of these factors together. You put them all on the balance and you try to realize which one is actually more important. That's the skill in chess. For material, it's pretty easy. You just take a look at the board, you see, here we have an extra knight, so white is winning. In this example, white has an extra pawn. Is it winning? No. But strong chances for a win if you play correctly. White has an advantage. Usually the computer would give it something like +1 because this is the size of the pawn. King safety. In this position, the king is pretty weak. And it doesn't matter that white is up 2 rooks because there is a forced checkmate and nothing can stop it. Here are a few tips that you need to know in order to understand when to trade and when not to trade according to the fact who has an advantage. Imagine your king is safe and your opponent's king is weak. Do you want to trade queens? No. You keep pieces on the board, you avoid changes, you continue the attack, and you open files. Especially lines for the rooks on the side of the king. That's where you're gonna be perfect. When your king is exposed, what are you gonna do? You're gonna defend first. You're gonna try to trade queens, trade pieces, simplify the position. Keep in mind that the material advantage and the king's safety should be evaluated together. A simplest example can be a Greek gift. White sacrifices a bishop, a knight, and delivers a checkmate. Now that you know everything in theory, we need to take a look at more concrete examples. We're gonna dive into development and piece activity and how important that can be versus the material. Imagine you got this position, everything is under control. It's a dream come true. You got the center, you got the bishop, the knight, the other knights, all your pieces are active, developed. Your king is castled, your opponent has only moved pawns. So, how do you punish him? You got this? We sacrifice the bishop! And after the king takes, what do? We bring out our strongest piece, which is the queen. Boom! Check. G6, and now we bring the queen again to D5. Double attack to the king and to the rook. Your opponent goes bishop to E6. What do you respond with? Do you take the slimy little rook, or you go for the king? And you go for the knight takes E6, boom, and you attack the opponent's queen, and you boom the pin. What is a good piece versus a bad piece? Let's say a bishop that is blocked by another pawn. Is it a good bishop? No, it's a bad bishop. Or let's say a knight on a strong outpost. Is it a good knight or a bad knight? It's a very good knight. Or a rook that is in front of the pawn, or a rook behind the pawn. Which one is good and which one is bad? The rook, especially when it comes to a passed pawn, should always be behind the pawn. The pawn moves up, whether you're trying to attack or defend. This is our next example, and we're gonna talk about pawn structures. In rook endgames, just like in any endgames, any position, honestly, pawns define the evaluation, because pawns are GPS of chess, as you know already. Let me know in the comments down below if I actually talk to you about pawns being the GPS of chess. Whenever you're taking a look at the pawn structure, always look for strengths and weaknesses. We can see here clearly that there is this isolated pawn. It's not the isolated pawn in the center, right? But it's isolated from the others. It's a pawn island, it's a weak pawn. Plus, there are these double pawns that don't have any neighbor, like this, for example, wouldn't be as bad. But here, these are weak double pawns. And plus, we have 3 pawn islands for black versus only 2 pawn islands for white. But that's not the worst. The worst is whose trait is it? Because in this position, it decides everything, because we have another factor, which is the open file. Who can take control of the open file? Either black or white. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to check out the backwards pawns and pass pawns and hanging pawns. If you don't know what that is already, I must have made a video for you on pawn structures. A pass pawn is always going to be a strength. A weak pawn long-term is forever weakness. In many games, especially the games of masters, things are not decided by an attack. This is too straightforward. Things are decided by pawn structures and the weaknesses in those structures. Honestly, plans often revolve around attacking weaknesses, creating a pass pawn, and fixing enemy pawns. So in this position, the trade is for white, and they're gonna play rook d1, take the open file, and win the game. Obviously, had the trade been for black, pretty much after rook d8, they should be totally fine. It's all about who has the open file. Unfortunately, black cannot play for a win, because then we would play king f1, and even if black gets to the second rank, we can still block them by playing rook c1, and then the king will come, they kick the rook out, we're still fine, but at least black is not losing. Now let's take a look at imbalances. Material is not just about counting points. If we take a look at this position, white has a queen, black has a rook and a bishop. White also has an extra pawn, so technically it's 9 plus 1, meaning 10. Whereas black has 3 plus 5, bishop and the rook, which is 8. So normally, logically speaking, white should be completely winning. That's not the case. This position is a dead draw. Imbalances can be anything. It can be an advantage of exchange, which is a rook versus a minor piece like a knight or a bishop. Imbalances can be 2 minor pieces versus a rook, or a rook and a pawn, or 2 rooks versus a queen, or like here, a rook and the bishop versus the queen. Sometimes it can even be 2 bishops against a bishop and a knight. When we just start counting points, sometimes it's enough. Sometimes it is not. Like here, because we also have to take a look at our favorite thing, which is pawn structure. And we can quickly understand that even though white has the material advantage, they don't have any plan, any winning plan whatsoever. And therefore, they have no way to pass through. You should always take into consideration if the position is open or closed. And here, it's completely open. Unfortunately, sometimes, even though people say chess is a science, there is no universal truth. The real strength of any chess player is to be able to put all those factors into a balance and then make a decision and come up with a valuation. Now, let's talk about more complex things. Small material advantage versus positional advantage. Like here, on this example, white has an extra pawn on c2, but do they have an advantage? Not exactly. As you can see, black has a pair of bishops. And as you know already, it's an advantage. Although what you don't know is that you probably have no idea how to use it and you might never use it in your games. But you just know that bishops are usually better than knights when and where. Now I'm not sure. Bishops are better in open positions and knights are better in close. Here the position is open and the game is gonna go on two sides. And even though white has an extra pawn, they have a knight, and that's not gonna be enough, most likely, to get a real advantage. So I would give this evaluation 0.5. Now, what is 0.5? 0.5 is half a pawn, because bishop here is half a point advantage, as you know now. And one pawn is a pawn, so 1 minus 0.5, 0.5. Honestly, you don't need it unless you are like a 1600 plus, but sometimes we like feeling that we're good, and I don't blame you. So oftentimes when we talk about small material advantage versus positional compensation, it can be such examples as you have just seen, or sometimes someone has a better development or better piece activity. And oftentimes when you look at those positions, the engine's gonna tell you that it's equal. And you're just like, but why is it equal? Don't I have an extra pawn? Not always. An easiest example when a pawn is sacrificed for the advantage is a gambit. Like Queen's Gambit, King's Gambit, Alipin, North Gambit, you name it. I hate gambits, but they're cool. Sometimes they can give you an advantage, as long as you give something for a compensation, which is piece activity. So you give a pawn, but for what? For time, development, and initiative. So evaluation becomes dynamic. Let's talk about the engine versus a human. Computers solve chess. Engines are so powerful, AI has taken over the world, humans cannot do anything. Relax, sweetheart. You are a human and you're playing against another human, and that's called a game of chess, a competition. You are willing to crush your opponent, destroy them, and that's what you're gonna do on the board. It doesn't matter what the computer says, you're playing against a human, and you should always remember that. But since we're here, +1 is 1 pawn, you know that. 0.5 means half of a pawn. +3, a bishop or a knight. You're up a bishop, you're up a knight. +5, you're up a rook. +9, you up a queen. Something that is equal for an engine is not necessarily equal for a human. Some positions can technically be equal, but particularly very hard to defend. Why to move? Your bishop is attacked. What are you gonna do? Another factor that is very important is what time control you're playing. Are you playing a blitz or a classical? Does your opponent have time to figure out if you do something silly, tricky, sacrifice? Before you're sacrificing, always ask yourself, even if I cannot see the checkmate, what do I feel? What is my gut feeling telling me? What is your intuition? How much time does your opponent have on the clock? Are they gonna be able to figure this out and defend the position? So here we sacrifice the bishop on h6. And after pawn takes, queen takes, checkmate. Just kidding. There is no checkmate here. In fact, there is even no threat. We are gonna build up our initiative. Truth is, black has here the only move which is knight to h7. Take the control of the g5 square, and then the position is equal. White will probably do something like h4, bring the rook up, or knight d5, bring the knight to the center, or maybe g5, g4 and g5. But let's say black does not put the knight back to defend the king and does something random, like let's say bishop takes f2. After this, the position is lost. We bring the other rook to the f file, attack the bishop. Bishop goes back. Now we bring the knight to the attack. And next, knight to d5, trading the defender and checkmating on h7. Of course, it's not that simple. Black is gonna go bishop e3 and trade the knight, but then we bring the rook and boom. Honestly, taking the pawn on f2 was such a horrible move. Who would have even suggested that? How is evaluation shaping strategy? Evaluation determines the plan. If you are up material, you wanna simplify, you wanna trade pieces, but not pawns, because pawns are the ones you're gonna promote to the queens. You can also trade pawns sometimes, but make sure you don't trade all the pawns, because in the end of the day, if you're left with just one king and an extra knight, and your opponent is left with just the king, you're not gonna be able to win. Not even if you have two knights or a bare king. If you are attacking the king, keep the pieces on the board, don't trade. If you're defending, trade and simplify. If you're behind in development, you gotta compensate it real quick. Either you have some material advantage for that and you have to suffer, or fast develop. That's your priority. Catch up with your opponent. Evaluation is never abstract. It always has concrete factors, and it directly decides what you're doing next. The 5-factor checklist. Every time you're trying to evaluate the position, always take a look at material advantage, king safety, piece activity and piece development, pawn structure, and imbalances. Then ask yourself, so who's better and why? And what is the plan? Evaluation is not just about memorizing random moves. It's about combining factors into a clear judgment. A queen will not save you if your king is exposed. A perfect structure will not help you if you're down a piece. The more positions you analyze, the better your intuition becomes. Chess evaluation is not arithmetic, it's judgment. And judgment is developed through experience. So go play your games and bring them to our next game review session at our Russian Chess School. See you there. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments down below. Bye! Stop wasting your time with random opening traps. They don't make you a better chess player. What does? One-on-one guidance, group classes, and a complete training program designed specifically to your level. Try my Russian Chess School for free for 7 days and see for yourself. Imagine all the people. Beep, 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 beep. All right.